Hello! Today we are here to discuss Riverside, and this is from Chilifox Games. This is a Gen Con pickup. And before we get into it, though, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell over there so you can follow along as we go through the rest of the Gen Con collection and all the ones we got on the shelves beyond the Gen Con collection. This was a 2021 release. Rating is 7.3 currently, and the rank on Board Game Geek is 3283. It's a 1 to 6 player game, average length of 15 to 25 minutes, which is probably about right.
Yeah.
Age 10 and up, that's also probably accurate. It's a roll and write, and it's a fairly simple, roll and write. The math's a little more complex, but we'll get into that. Designed by Eilif Svensson and Asmund Svensson. I'm probably mispronouncing his names, and I apologize. Art by Germund Bohn. And published by, as we mentioned, Chilifox Games. Now, this one is hard to find. I did find it, oddly enough, on Fun Again Games, which is a site I don't typically go to, for $25. It's also on the Geek Market, is listed for $35 like new there. So, actually, it looks like Fun Again's not only the only place to find it online, retail that I found, but also the cheapest. Mm-hmm. So, and it's new. So, if you want it, that'd be the place to go. So let's talk about what you get in the box. So you get a set of tiles that have the end and the start and end of a kind of a curved U-shaped river, and you have then 2 extension tiles in the box to play a variant, or I guess it extends the game in theory. Mm-hmm. You get pencils, but these are not your typical golf pencils, which is nice. I give them a kudos for that. They actually put ones with erasers on them, which is super nice. Mm-hmm. And then you get some colorful dice of various colors and a little tile that's your captain tile.
And score sheets.
And score sheets. You get a nice thick score pad, and they're all 2-sided, so you can play 2 games on each score sheet. So that's nice. So a lot of options here to play it multiple times, and then of course the rule book. But it's a small package, so there's not a lot of stuff in the box, but it's nice quality. I mean, the dice are pretty nice and they're colorful, and you got one that's see-through, which is supposed to represent the Northern Lights, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And you get a little boat token too. I haven't mentioned that, but the boat goes around the river, and that's what you're using to kind of the timer for the game. Not to mention where it determines where you can go on excursions throughout the game.
Yes.
All in all, nothing super exciting. The tiles, they're slight linen finish to them. They're not doesn't really that important that they have it, because they just basically are set up as your board throughout the game. You're not going to do much with them. It's kind of nice that they're good quality. All in all, I'll probably give it, probably a 6. I mean, the dice are good quality dice, and the tiles having a slight linen finish. And I'm going to give them 6.5 because of the pencils.
I was going to say a 7 because of the pencils, and also because of the sheer quantity of score sheets.
Yes, that is a good point. There's a lot of score sheets. Moving on to theme, this is kind of a fun theme. It's you're going on a cruise down a river in kind of like the northern area where you've got reindeer and polar bears and all kinds of things you don't typically think of on a cruise. But it's interesting. I'm not sure I want to travel down a river that's freezing over along the way, but yeah.
You're going to be one of those people that think that it's not the right temperature for an excursion.
I will probably be one of those people, even though that's, I do, if I was going on a cruise, I would much rather go see the whales up north than to go down to the Caribbean, which is, I've already been to the Caribbean on a cruise now, but I would much rather go see the whales and the things jumping out of the ocean. That'd be cool to see.
Yeah.
And I would like to see the Northern Lights if I could see it without freezing to death. Yeah, it would be fun to go see those things. And it's not the kind of setting you expect to see in a game that's about a cruise, so it's pretty cool. Right. I really think it's a fun theme, and I mean, there's not much art to it, but I like the way the river looks and the little animals on it. Nothing super exciting about it, but it's fun. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 6.5 as well, just because I like the fun factor, the novelty of going on a cruise in the north up through a river.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you on that 6.5.
All right, so moving on to the rule book. So the rule book is 12 pages long, size of the box roughly. It's got a nice cover on it and talks about the tour guide manual because you're going your tours, and tells you how to set up the game and basically walks you through how the rolling and your choices work. It's fairly standard for a roll and write. It's really the math that makes this a little complex. There's a lot of math involved as far as how many points you get for your excursions, and you have to go greater than your previous excursions because people aren't interested in seeing the same old. They want to see something more exciting. So you always have to score more. So it makes sense thematically with that, but it's if you're not a fan of math, this is probably not the game for you.
Right. It took me a second to figure out why they were using the sigma symbol as an E, because I thought it was E for excursion, but no, it's sigma for sum. They wanted to put the total there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not advanced math, it's just summations, but, it can be a little tricky if you're not good at math. If you like it to roll and write, this is a fairly simplistic one. It's not a lot of, it's definitely not, if we compare everything to Hadrian's Wall, it's definitely nowhere near Hadrian's Wall complexity. But I think the rulebook does an effective job explaining how to play. I guess these are the creators on the back. Yep. Eilif and Asmund. They got pictures of them, little caricatures on the back, which is kind of cool. And it's got the achievements if you're playing solo, what your goals, your score are, and you can kind of see how you did. So I think it's a nice rule book. It does its job well. I'm going to go ahead and give it probably an 8. I think it does an effective job.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to gameplay. So you set up the board with the two ends kind of your boat, your start and then your curve where you're turning around because you're making a U. The start tile has both the start and the finish of the tile trip on it. And then the rest of the tiles in the middle, you've got 10 that you're going to shuffle amongst each other and put in pairs facing opposite each other with the rounded side out. So you make a board that is 10 length plus the two ends, or 5 and 5, but it wraps. Those tiles have various excursions on them along the way that you will go on. So at the beginning of the game, one person is designated the captain, and they get to roll the dice for the entire game. I mean, I'm sure you could vary that and pass it around if you wanted, but from a maintenance perspective, we just left it with Melissa being the captain.
Which I've learned I'm a bad roller.
You had a few good ones. So then you roll the dice, and the green dice technically rolled separately because it's got a special purpose, but it's the Northern Lights. The rest of the 5 dice are reflective of the different boats that you could go on for excursions, but they also have the passengers on them that are looking for tickets, and they all have little smiley faces on there, so they're happy. But you fill them in from left to right in a row, and if you fill the complete row, then you get to get a ticket for that row for an excursion. And the tickets will have various victory points based upon the length of that row, but those will only be relevant at the end of the game. What matters during the game is how many tickets you have X'd off.
Yeah.
You also get a bonus when you fill out an entire row of one to two more dots that are in one of the various boats on your pad that you can then tick off along with it as a bonus. So, like if on the top row here, I fill in all 4 of the dots on the white, I get 2 bonus dots on the white, so I can fill in another 2 on this boat.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's important to note, I think, with that too, in the instructions it says that you don't have to complete a row before you start your next row, as long as you keep going from left to right.
Yeah.
So you can potentially keep triggering that way too.
Yeah. And there's 2 purple smiley faces that are your royalty on each boat. So if you fill both of those, you get a special bonus that can be used once per game that's on each of the boats that you mark that you can trigger at any point during the game. You don't have to do it right away. But one will give you where you can basically do an extra excursion. One lets you add a ticket to your excursion, and then one lets you use the green die for free because there is a cost to use the green die. Another will let you extend your excursion for a distance of 6 instead of the standard 3. So there's all kinds of variety of those. The goal is to fill a row and get the tickets, as many tickets as you can, so you can go on excursions and score more points, because every excursion you go on will be the multiplication value of the tickets you have at the time you go on the excursion times the value on the board of that excursion. The trick is, whenever you go on the excursion, you have to write the number down of what your score is, and after that, if you go on another excursion to the same type, that value has to be higher. So you have to get more tickets or go to a higher valued location or some combination thereof. So you can run into a situation where you can't go on an excursion like you want to. And I probably passed up a few excursions I probably shouldn't have, because I later on didn't get points on some of these categories, right. And it can come back to cost you. The end score at the end of the game, you've got a potential of 3 excursions on each one of these boats. And you get then also the points for the tickets. At the end of the game, you'll get the number that's actually pictured next to the tickets on the score sheet, and you'll write that down into the ticket number, and you'll add on the points you got for each excursion, and that will be your total for that given boat. And whichever boat is your lowest scoring boat is going to then help you determine your captain points that you get. And that's really basically a modifier at the end of the game. For each player, we figure out what your total captain points are, and those captain points determine whether you lose or gain 15 points, or you don't lose or gain anything if there's more than 2 players. So whoever's got the most captain points gains 15-point bonus. Whoever has the fewest loses 15 points. I did not effectively manage my captain points well. I had one boat I completely ignored, and I only got 5 points off of it. So my captain points reflected that, and I only got 13 captain points. It only cost me 15 victory points, though, so I made up for that with my blue boat alone. I got 80 points, so I wasn't too worried about it. It wasn't a huge swing factor. It is something to note. It is good to balance your boats, which I did not do effectively at all. The die for the Northern Lights. This is you can use this as an add-on to your die roll that you pick from the dice below the captain, which I should mention that when you roll the dice, you choose that middle die, and anything that's above that middle die goes into the heated area of the boat, because they're too cold to go out on an excursion. They don't want to go out, and so they stay in the heated area. So whenever you choose dice, you can choose any of the dice on here, but if you choose any of them in the heated area, you have to use the fires that you have at the top of your sheet, and you only get 14 of those during the course of the game. If you use up all of them, you'll never be able to use any of the dice at the top. So you choose one of these base dice, and then you have the option of adding the green Northern Lights die to it. So in this case, there's a 6 pink. If you wanted the 6 pink, you would be paying 6 points for pips for that. And if you wanted the green, you have to pay 2 more pips. So you have to pay 8 of your 14 fires. So that one roll would burn up most of your potential for using those. Burn them up. Yeah, there you go. But then again, there's a 5 yellow down here, so that 5 is almost 6. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. I would have used that, assuming I haven't already filled my yellow boat. Right. So you got to be cognizant of what have you got available to choose. You can, one of the problems we had, we kept rolling like a bunch of low numbers and then a couple high, because we ended up with like a 5, 6 at the top. I don't know how many times, but we have like 1, 2, 3, or
3 2s.
Yes.
And, yeah.
If you get lucky and your top 3 dice or more are all the same value, you get to keep all the dice below. Everybody wants to go on an excursion. We got lucky and got it once. Yeah. So then you can choose without having penalty some of these big value numbers. So that was nice. But the penalty for that is whatever that middle number is, that's how far the boat's moving. So it means the boat's moving much faster. So you're going to pass a lot of real estate for potential scoring on excursions when that boat goes fast. So you got to be kind of a balancing act with it. And the excursions, you can go to an excursion wherever the boat lands. You can go to an excursion within 3 distance of that without any penalty or without using any bonuses. So I can go back 2 to go here. I can go 1 ahead to here, or I can go 3 ahead to here, or I can actually go across this little shortcut to here and actually use a bonus. As long as it's within 3 distance, I can do it. Now, if there's some of these that have a single excursion, I go with that, I trigger that single, but some will have double. And if I have double, I can go on both excursions for that bonus, which that's super nice. Granted, they're generally lower scoring excursions, but you only can score them 3 times. I wasted several of my excursions on my sheet, so it's not like I had a necessary to use every one of them, because I ran short on them many times. But you can only choose one pier to go to with your boats. There are 2 special excursions, which are the captain ones, where you can trigger and get the multiplier times all of the tickets on your sheet, and that goes down here in the captains, and that's the points you get at the end of the game for that bonus modifier of plus or minus 15. So all in all, I like this. I thought it was a simple roll and write. I don't think it's anywhere, it's definitely not among my favorites. It's okay, but I thought it was a good game. I just would like to have a lot of the chaining and combos, and I didn't feel this felt very chain heavy. There were places where, I got to fill in 2 more bubbles and I got to go up here, but they're the same bubbles. There's not differences really in the different buckets. They're all doing the same thing. So they're all giving you opportunities to go on future excursions, and it's not that interesting from that perspective. So I'm not going to rate this highly as far as the roll and write category goes, but it was still fun, and I like the math of it. I'm probably going to give this probably a 7, I think.
Yeah, I think that's where I am with it too. It wasn't too difficult, but...
But yeah, I mean, I love the theme, I love the idea of it, and this is definitely something that, if I ever go on another cruise again, I'll probably take it with me because it's fun. Or if I'm maybe in the middle of winter, it's a good game to get out for Christmas. It's thematically setting that. So yeah, I think it's a fun roll and write to have, but it's not one that I'm probably going to get to the table a whole lot.
Yeah.
So. All right, well, that's our thoughts on Riverside. If you've had a chance to play it, what did you think? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for future games for us to review, let us know. Or tell us what's your favorite roll and write. We'd love to hear that too, because we love roll and writes, and I'm always looking out for new ones. So, all right, until next time, bye.
Bye.